The rain drummed against my helmet like a relentless reminder of everything going wrong in my life as I pulled up to the gleaming glass towers of downtown Seattle. My red delivery scooter, a beat-up Honda that I'd bought used for $1,200 3 months ago, looked like a child's toy next to the luxury cars parked outside the corporate headquarters of Morrison & Associates. Mercedes, BMW, Tesla after Tesla lined the street like a parade of success I couldn't even dream of affording. I checked my phone, 7:47 p.m. Perfect timing for the dinner rush, but terrible timing for my ego, which had already taken enough hits today. This was my third delivery job rejection this week. DoorDash had deactivated my account over a customer complaint that wasn't even my fault. The restaurant had forgotten the customer's sauce, but somehow that became my responsibility. Uber Eats was being stingy with orders, and Grubhub's algorithm seemed to have blacklisted me to the suburbs where tips were scarce and gas money barely covered the distance. Another order for the 23rd floor, I muttered, grabbing the insulated bag from my scooter's storage compartment. The Thai food inside was still steaming, filling the air with the scent of pad Thai and green curry that made my mouth water. My stomach growled audibly. I hadn't eaten since my quick lunch break 6 hours ago, which had consisted of a gas station protein bar and a lukewarm coffee. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent my days surrounded by delicious food that I couldn't afford to eat. My bank account was a constant source of anxiety. After rent, student loans, and basic expenses, I was left with maybe $200 a month for everything else. My delivery earnings were unpredictable. Some nights I'd make $120, others barely $40. The gig economy promised flexibility and independence, but what it really delivered was financial instability and the constant fear that your next paycheck might not come. The lobby was all marble and chrome, with a security guard who looked like he could bench press my scooter. His name tag read Marcus, and his expression read not impressed. Everything about this place screamed money and success, from the abstract art on the walls that probably cost more than my annual income to the fresh orchids at the reception desk that were replaced weekly. Even the elevator music was sophisticated, some kind of classical piece that made me feel underdressed and out of place. I'd been in dozens of corporate lobbies over the past few months, but this one was different. It had an energy, a buzz of important things happening. Through the glass walls, I could see people in expensive suits moving with purpose, their conversations animated, their posture confident. This was where decisions were made, where careers were built, where dreams became reality for those lucky enough to earn a seat at the table. Delivery for Morrison & Associates, I announced, water still dripping from my rain jacket onto his pristine floor. Marcus barely glanced up from his phone. Service elevators around the corner. Don't drip on the carpet upstairs. As the elevator climbed, I caught my reflection in the polished steel doors. Maya Chen, 24 years old, soaked to the bone, carrying someone else's dinner to people who would never remember my name. My business degree from University of Washington seemed like a distant memory, buried under months of rejection letters and "we'll keep your resume on file" responses that really meant "don't call us, we'll call you," except they never did. The job market had been brutal for the past year. Every entry-level position wanted 3 years of experience, every internship was unpaid, and every networking event was full of people who looked right through me when they found out I was between opportunities. I'd applied to 147 jobs in the past 6 months. I kept a spreadsheet to track my applications, interview requests, and rejections. The ratios were depressing: 147 applications, 23 responses, 8 interviews, 0 offers. Somewhere between job rejection number 89 and 90, I'd started delivering food to pay the bills. What was supposed to be a temporary solution had become my reality. And every day I stayed in this job felt like another step away from the career I'd imagined. The doors opened to reveal a bustling office floor. Even at nearly 8 p.m., the place was alive with activity. Employees in crisp suits hurried between conference rooms, their voices mixing with the hum of printers and the click of keyboards. The air smelled like coffee and ambition. I found the conference room and knocked. A woman in her 40s opened the door, her perfectly styled blonde hair not showing a single strand out of place despite the late hour. I found the conference room and knocked on the frosted glass door. A woman in her 40s opened it, her perfectly styled blonde hair not showing a single strand out of place despite the late hour. Her makeup was flawless, her suit looked like it cost more than my rent, and her handshake probably sealed million-dollar deals. Everything about her screamed success and confidence. Finally, she sighed, not looking at me directly. "We've been waiting 20 minutes. Do you have any idea how much our billable hours cost?" The comment stung. I'd actually arrived exactly on time according to the app's estimated delivery window, but somehow I'd still managed to disappoint a client before even walking through the door. "I'm sorry, the traffic was heavier than expected, and the restaurant took, just put it on the table," she interrupted, already turning back to her colleagues. "The tip's on the app. We don't need a detailed explanation of Seattle traffic patterns." I arranged the containers on the mahogany conference table, surrounded by laptops displaying colorful charts and revenue projections. One screen showed a logistics optimization model that made my heart skip. This was exactly the kind of work I'd spent 4 years studying, the type of challenge that got me excited about business in the first place. The algorithms were sophisticated but flawed, and I could see immediately where improvements could be made. The irony was devastating. Here I was, delivering pad thai to people solving the exact problems I'd written my senior thesis about. My capstone project had been a comprehensive analysis of supply chain optimization in the Pacific Northwest, focusing specifically on last-mile delivery challenges. I'd spent 6 months researching this exact topic, interviewing logistics coordinators, analyzing traffic patterns, and proposing solutions that my professors had called innovative and commercially viable. Now I was standing in a room full of people implementing inferior versions of strategies I'd mastered as a student, and they saw me as nothing more than a food delivery service. "Excuse me," I ventured, unable to help myself. "That's an interesting approach to route optimization. Have you considered factoring in real-time traffic data?" The room went silent. 6 pairs of eyes turned to me, and I immediately regretted speaking up. The looks ranged from mild amusement to outright annoyance, like I'd just committed some social faux pas by daring to have an opinion. The blonde woman, her nameplate read Jennifer Walsh, VP Operations, looked at me like I'd just suggested they solve world hunger with pizza. Her expression was a masterclass in condescension, the kind of look that makes you feel about 2 inches tall. "I'm sorry, what?" Her voice carried the kind of condescension that could cut glass. "Did our delivery person just try to give us business advice?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. I could feel my cheeks burning, but something inside me refused to back down. Maybe it was the months of rejection, maybe it was the financial stress, or maybe it was just the unfairness of being dismissed before anyone had even heard what I had to say. "Your model," I continued, my cheeks burning but my voice steady. "It's impressive, but if you integrated live traffic feeds and weather data, you could probably improve efficiency by 15 to 20%. A man in a navy suit leaned back in his chair and chuckled. "That's cute. The delivery girl has opinions about logistics." "What's next? The janitor's going to redesign our accounting system." The comment hit like a slap, but I kept my composure. "I actually have a degree in business administration with a concentration in supply chain management from the University of Washington. I graduated summa cum laude with a 3.9 GPA and wrote my senior thesis on exactly this type of optimization problem." "Look, sweetie," Jennifer interrupted, her voice dripping with fake maternal concern, "we appreciate your enthusiasm, but we have actual work to do. The grown-ups need to eat now, and we have real business to discuss. Why don't you run along and deliver some more food?" The laughter that followed felt like acid in my chest. It wasn't just mockery. It was dismissal, the kind that tells you that your voice doesn't matter, your ideas don't count, and your presence is barely tolerated. I'd experienced rejection before, but this was different. This was humiliation wrapped in politeness, cruelty disguised as professionalism. I nodded silently, collected my empty delivery bag, and headed for the door. Hey, one of them called. After me. Don't forget, we're probably ordering again tomorrow night. Same time, same place. More laughter. I kept walking. Back in the elevator, my hands shook as I pressed the lobby button. Not from the cold rain outside, but from pure, concentrated fury mixed with something else, determination. The delivery girl. That's all they saw. Not Maya Chen, honors graduate. Not Maya Chen, who'd spent countless hours studying supply chain management and dreaming of revolutionizing logistics. Not Maya Chen, who could solve their problems better than their overpaid consultants. Just a girl on a scooter, useful only for bringing them food. But as the elevator descended, something shifted inside me. The anger was still there, burning. Hot and bright, but it was crystallizing into something more powerful: purpose. They'd just made the biggest mistake of their professional lives. They'd underestimated me. I pulled out my phone and opened my voice memo app. If I was going to channel this rage into something productive, I needed to capture every detail while it was still fresh. Marcus was still at his desk when I walked through the lobby. This time, he looked up. "You all right, miss? You look upset." His unexpected kindness almost broke me. "I'm fine. Just, long day." "I hear you," he said with a genuine smile. "Been working security for 15 years. Seen a lot of people come and go through these doors. You know what I've learned?" I paused, curious despite my emotional turmoil. The people who treat service workers badly? They're usually the most insecure about their own positions. Real successful people, they understand that everyone's got value. Thanks, Marcus. I needed to hear that. Outside, the rain had stopped. But the city lights reflected off the wet pavement like scattered diamonds. I climbed back onto my scooter and pulled out my phone to check for the next order. 3 more deliveries before I could call it a night, 3 more opportunities to prove to myself that I was more than what people saw. The next order was from a trendy restaurant in Capitol Hill to a tech startup in South Lake Union. As I waited for the food, I started thinking about what I'd seen in that conference room. Their logistics model was flawed, but not unfixably so. They were treating each delivery route as an isolated problem instead of part of a larger optimization network. They weren't factoring in real-time variables like weather, traffic accidents, or construction delays. Most importantly, they weren't leveraging predictive analytics to anticipate demand spikes. I could fix all of that. I could build something better. As I started the engine, my phone buzzed with a notification. Jennifer Walsh had left a review. Delivery took too long. Driver was unprofessional and inappropriate. Argued with staff. 1 star. I stared at the screen, feeling the familiar sting of injustice. She'd literally penalized me for having an education and offering a professional opinion. The review would hurt my ratings, which would mean fewer orders, which would mean less money at the end of an already difficult month. But something else was building inside me, something stronger than hurt. More powerful than indignation. It was the same feeling I'd had when I'd decided to go to college despite my family's financial struggles, the same determination that had gotten me through 4 years of juggling work and school. The same fire that had kept me applying for jobs even after rejection number 100. I opened my voice memo app and hit record, my hand steady now despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. I opened my voice memo app and hit record. Day 1. Of the revenge plan, I said into the microphone, my voice steadier than I felt. They called me just a delivery girl tonight. Laughed at my ideas. Treated me like I was invisible. But they have no idea what they just started. I pocketed the phone and pulled up my delivery app. Next stop, an apartment complex in Capitol Hill. 15-minute ride, enough time to start my first business podcast episode of the night. I'd been working my way through every logistics and entrepreneurship podcast I could find, treating my scooter like a mobile MBA program. Tonight, I was going to start planning my revenge. Not the petty kind, but the most satisfying revenge of all, success. The traffic light turned green, and I accelerated into the night, leaving the gleaming corporate towers behind. But their words followed me. The delivery girl has opinions about logistics. They had no idea how right they were. And they had no idea what they'd just unleashed. 3 months later, I was averaging 60 deliveries a week across 3 different apps, but my scooter had become so much more than just a vehicle. It was my mobile office, my classroom, my laboratory, and my vehicle of redemption. Every mile between restaurants and doorsteps was an opportunity to learn something new, to observe patterns, to understand the city's rhythm in ways that people stuck in office buildings never could. My daily routine had become almost scientific in its precision. I'd wake up at 5:30 a.m., check weather reports and traffic patterns, plan my routes around peak demand times, and hit the road by 6:45 a.m. Between orders, I'd listen to podcasts, audiobooks, and industry reports. During slow periods, I'd park at scenic overlooks and take notes, documenting everything I was learning about Seattle's delivery ecosystem. The data I was collecting was becoming invaluable. I knew which restaurants were consistently late, which neighborhoods tipped well, which apartment complexes had confusing layouts, and which office buildings had the most efficient loading zones. Most importantly, I was identifying patterns that the big delivery apps were missing. Welcome back to the Startup Grind. The podcast host's voice filled my helmet speakers as I navigated through Seattle's morning traffic. Today we're talking about identifying gaps in oversaturated markets, finding opportunity where others see only competition. The timing of this episode felt like fate. I'd been thinking about market gaps constantly, documenting every inefficiency I encountered. Every customer complaint I overheard, every frustrated restaurant manager I met. The delivery market seemed oversaturated on the surface, but I was discovering layers of unmet demand that nobody was addressing. I pulled into the parking lot of Pike Place Market, grabbed my insulated bags, and jogged toward Honest Biscuits. The morning rush was just hitting, and I had 4 orders to pick up, a regular Tuesday routine that had become as familiar as breathing. While waiting in line, I pulled out the leather-bound notebook I'd started carrying everywhere, a $15 investment that was becoming the foundation of my business plan. Gap analysis, I scribbled, my pen moving quickly to capture the thought before it disappeared. Food delivery market oversaturated for consumers. But what about the delivery companies themselves? What about specialized services? I'd been documenting ideas like this for weeks, filling page after page with observations, insights, and potential solutions. The notebook was divided into sections: market observations, technology gaps, customer pain points, and business opportunities. It was becoming my Bible, my roadmap out of this situation. Maya, called Rachel, one of the counter workers who'd gotten to know me over the past few months. Your usual 4 orders? That's me. How's business this morning? Rachel rolled her eyes as she handed me the bags, but her frustration wasn't directed at me. Crazy busy, but 3 different delivery drivers haven't shown up this morning. We're getting complaints from customers, and we can't do anything about it. The apps don't communicate with each other, so we never know if orders are actually being handled or just sitting in digital limbo. I paused, my pen hovering over my notebook. This happens frequently? Every single day, Rachel replied, her voice carrying the weight of constant frustration. The apps don't communicate with each other, drivers cancel last minute without explanation. And we're left dealing with angry customers who think it's our fault. I swear, sometimes I think we could run deliveries better ourselves. At least then we'd know what's happening. That comment stuck with me like a burr as I made my rounds. I started paying closer attention to the conversations happening around me, the casual complaints that revealed systematic problems in the industry. That comment stuck with me as I made my rounds. At my next stop, a tech startup in South Lake Union, I overheard a conversation that made my ears perk up and my business instincts start tingling. Our catering order was supposed to be here an hour ago, a frustrated woman was saying into her phone, her voice carrying across the open office space. We have a client presentation in 10 minutes, and now we look completely unprofessional. This is the 3rd time this month that our catering has failed to show up on time. She paused, listening to whoever was on the other end, then continued. With increasing agitation. I don't care about traffic or driver availability. We're paying premium prices for a service that should be reliable. This is embarrassing. I delivered my order to a different floor, but the woman's words echoed in my mind as I rode the elevator down. Unreliable delivery. Poor communication. No accountability. Premium prices with substandard service. These weren't isolated incidents. They were systematic failures that represented massive business opportunities for someone willing to do things differently. During my lunch break, I parked my scooter at a viewpoint overlooking Elliott Bay and opened my laptop, a 5-year-old MacBook that had gotten me through college and was now serving as my mobile business command center. For the past 3 months, I'd been documenting every delivery in meticulous detail, noting patterns, inefficiencies, and opportunities. Now I had over 200 pages of real-world data that no business school case study could match. The trends were crystal clear when viewed from a data perspective. Peak delivery times clustered around meal periods but with significant variations by neighborhood and business type. Problem areas included miscommunication between platforms, driver reliability issues, and most importantly, a growing demand for reliable, business-focused delivery services that the major apps weren't addressing. Corporate clients had completely different needs than individual consumers, but the apps treated them exactly the same. Businesses needed predictability, accountability, and professional presentation. They were willing to pay premium prices for premium service, but nobody was offering it. I opened a new document and started typing. SwiftServe Business Plan Executive. Summary. My phone buzzed. Another order, back to Morrison and Associates. The address made my stomach tighten like a fist. 3 months had passed since that humiliating encounter, but the memory was still fresh enough to make my palms sweat. Part of me wanted to decline the order, to avoid the possibility of running into Jennifer Walsh and her condescending smile. But another part of me, the part that had been growing stronger with each passing day, saw this as an opportunity. I was a different person than I'd been 3 months ago. Not just because of the confidence I'd gained from my expanding knowledge, but because I now had a plan. I had data. I had insights that could revolutionize their business if they were smart enough to listen. The question was whether they'd be smart enough to see past the delivery uniform to the entrepreneur underneath. Marcus was at his usual post when I walked into the familiar lobby, and his face lit up with genuine warmth when he saw me. Over the past few months, our brief conversations had become one of the highlights of my delivery route. He was one of the few people who treated me like a human being rather than an invisible service provider. Maya. How's the delivery business treating you these days? You're looking more confident lately, something different about you. Can't complain. Learning something new every day, I replied, but his observation surprised me. I hadn't realized that my growing confidence was visible to others. That's the spirit. You know, I've been watching you these past few months, and I've never seen someone approach this job with so much purpose. Most delivery folks just want to get in and out as fast as possible, collect their money, and move on to the next order. But you? You pay attention. Ask questions. Take notes. You observe things, analyze situations. You're building something, aren't you? His perceptiveness caught me off guard. I'd thought I was being subtle about my data collection and business planning, but apparently my analytical approach was more obvious than I'd realized. Maybe, I admitted, surprised by how much I wanted to share my plans with someone who actually seemed to care about my future. Well, whatever it is, I'm rooting for you. And I'll tell you something else, I've been working security in corporate buildings for 15 years, and I've learned to read people pretty well. You've got something special. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. His words hit me harder than I expected. In a world where most people treated me as invisible, Marcus saw potential. It was exactly the encouragement I needed before walking back into that conference room upstairs. The same conference room buzzed with familiar energy, but this time there was a new face at the table. When I knocked, I was greeted by a man in his 30s with kind eyes and a genuine smile that immediately changed the room's atmosphere. "You must be our delivery person. I'm David Park, the new logistics coordinator. Come on in." The room had the same people as before, including Jennifer Walsh, who barely looked up from her laptop. But David's welcoming demeanor changed the entire energy. "Actually," David continued, "I'm glad you're here. We've been having some issues with our catering deliveries, and I'd love to get your perspective." Jennifer's head snapped up. "David, I don't think we need to." "No, seriously," David interrupted, his tone remaining polite but firm. "She's out. They're navigating this system every single day. She has insights we simply can't get from vendor reports and customer surveys. This is exactly the kind of ground-level intelligence that could help us solve our problems." All eyes were on me again, but this time it felt completely different. David was genuinely interested in what I had to say, and his attitude was giving me permission to be the expert I actually was. "Well," I began, feeling more confident than I had in months. "From what I've observed over hundreds of deliveries, most delivery issues stem from poor communication between platforms, unrealistic time estimates that don't account for real-world variables, and complete lack of contingency planning when things go wrong." David nodded enthusiastically, pulling out his own notebook. "Exactly. We had a complete disaster last week where our board meeting catering got split between 3 different drivers from 2 different services, and only one of them actually showed up. The board members were not impressed. That happens because the apps treat each order as an isolated incident instead of seeing the bigger picture," I explained, pulling out my well-worn notebook filled with months of observations. "For business clients specifically, you need dedicated account management, real-time tracking with proactive communication, backup systems for when primary drivers cancel, and most importantly, a service-level agreement that actually means something." I flipped through my notebook, finding the relevant section. I'd documented over 300 corporate delivery failures in the past 3 months. The patterns are clear: 67% failed due to driver reliability issues, 23% due to poor restaurant coordination, and 10% due to client communication breakdowns. But here's the thing: all of these problems are completely solvable with the right systems. "This is absolutely fascinating," David said, leaning forward with genuine excitement. "You've really thought about this systematically. Do you have recommendations for how we could improve our corporate catering process?" The room had gone quiet. Even Jennifer was listening now, though her expression remained skeptical. Jennifer cleared her throat loudly, her impatience obvious. "As riveting as this impromptu consulting session is, we do have actual work to do. Our billable hours don't stop for delivery discussions." But David was undeterred, his enthusiasm growing by the minute. "Maya, that is your name, right? Would you be interested in formally consulting on our logistics challenges? I mean, officially, as a paid consultant. What you're describing could save us thousands of dollars in failed meetings and client relationships." My heart skipped several beats. A real consulting opportunity. A chance to prove my worth in a professional capacity. Yes. Absolutely. I'd be very interested in that opportunity." "Excellent. Let me give you my business card. Email me a comprehensive proposal outlining your thoughts on how we could completely overhaul our corporate catering process. Include pricing, timelines, and expected outcomes. I'll present it to our senior management team." As I left the building, David's business card felt like a winning lottery ticket in my pocket. But more than that, it felt like validation, proof that someone had finally seen past the delivery uniform to recognize the business professional underneath. That evening, I sat at my small kitchen table in my shared apartment in Fremont, laptop open, surrounded by months of delivery data, business notes, and entrepreneurial dreams made tangible. My roommate Sarah was at the stove, making her signature pasta dish that had gotten us through countless broke college nights and was now sustaining us through our post-graduation struggles. You've been working on that thing for 6 hours straight, she observed, stirring her sauce. What's got you so intensely focused? You look like you're planning to take over the world. I think I might have found my breakthrough moment, I said, not looking up from the screen where I was building what could be the most important PowerPoint presentation of my life. A real consulting opportunity with serious potential. That's incredible. With who? What kind of consulting? This company downtown, Morrison and Associates. They want me to help them solve their corporate catering problems. But it's bigger than that. I think I've identified a massive gap in the market that nobody else is addressing. Sarah sat down across from me with her bowl of pasta, her expression mixing excitement with concern. So you're going from delivering their food to potentially fixing their entire business model? Something like that. But Sarah, the opportunity is so much bigger than just one consulting contract. What I've learned over the past few months could be the foundation for an entire company. That's like the ultimate entrepreneurial glow-up story, Sarah said with a grin. From delivery girl to business consultant to, what? CEO? Her words hung in the air like a challenge and a promise. CEO. I'd never spoken that dream out loud, but it had been growing in my mind for weeks. Maybe, I admitted. The data I've collected, the insights I've developed, the problems I've identified, they're all pointing toward the same conclusion. There's a massive opportunity for a specialized corporate delivery service that nobody is currently addressing properly. I spent the next 8 hours crafting the most comprehensive business proposal of my life. It included everything I'd learned from hundreds of deliveries, detailed peak time analysis, route optimization strategies, vendor relationship management, protocols, customer communication frameworks, and my revolutionary idea for dedicated business delivery services with guaranteed performance metrics. The proposal was 47 pages long, complete with charts, graphs, financial projections, and implementation timelines. It was the kind of document that could either launch my career or get me laughed out of another conference room. At 3:17 a.m., I finally hit send on the email to David. The subject line read, Comprehensive Logistics Optimization Proposal, Maya Chen, Business Consultant. As I closed my laptop, I caught my reflection in the dark window, exhausted but determined, scared but excited. Tomorrow, I'd be back on my scooter, delivering other people's meals and dreams while building my own. But tonight, I'd taken the first real step toward transforming from a service provider into a business owner. My phone buzzed with a notification. A new delivery request for early morning, a breakfast order that would require me to be on the road by 6 a.m. I accepted it automatically and started planning my route. But my mind was already racing ahead to David's potential response. The delivery girl was about to become something much more powerful, an entrepreneur with a plan, data to back it up, and the determination to prove that your current circumstances don't define your future possibilities. I set my alarm for 5:30 a.m. and tried to sleep. But my mind kept spinning with possibilities, strategies, and the tantalizing prospect that everything was about to change. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in an actual conference room at Morrison and Associates, not as a delivery person bringing someone else's food, but as a professional consultant with my own business cards and a legitimate contract worth $5,000 to implement my recommendations. The transformation felt surreal, like I'd stepped through a portal into an alternate version of my life. David had not only loved my proposal but had somehow convinced his boss and the executive committee to give me a trial contract. The 47-page document I'd crafted in my tiny apartment kitchen had become the foundation for a complete overhaul of their corporate catering strategy. Your data analysis is absolutely incredible, David said, spreading my printed charts and graphs across the same mahogany table where I'd been humiliated months before. Look at this delivery pattern analysis. You've identified bottlenecks and inefficiencies that we didn't even know existed, despite spending thousands on consulting firms. I tried to keep my voice professional and measured, but inside I was practically vibrating with excitement and vindication. The key insight is treating corporate deliveries as a completely different market segment with unique requirements. Individual consumers can wait an extra 15 minutes for their pizza. It's an inconvenience but not a catastrophe. But when a law firm orders lunch for a client meeting or a tech company needs catering for an investor presentation, timing becomes absolutely critical to business relationships and professional reputations. Jennifer Walsh sat at the far end of the table, her arms crossed and expression deeply skeptical, clearly uncomfortable with this role reversal where the former delivery girl was now the expert consultant. Her body language screamed resistance to the idea that someone she'd dismissed so carelessly could now be solving problems that their expensive corporate consultants had failed to address. And you honestly think you can solve problems that multi-billion-dollar companies like DoorDash and Uber Eats can't? Jennifer challenged, her voice carrying the same condescending tone I remembered from our first encounter. These companies have teams of engineers, data scientists, and logistics experts. What makes you think a delivery driver has insights they're missing? I think I can solve problems that multi-billion-dollar companies don't prioritize, I replied calmly, my confidence growing with each word. They're optimizing for volume and efficiency across millions of individual orders, focusing on speed and cost reduction. But there's a completely underserved niche for premium, reliable business delivery services where clients are willing to pay significantly more for guaranteed performance. The room's energy shifted as I clicked to my next slide, revealing market research I'd conducted over months of observations. Corporate clients represent only 3% of total delivery orders but 23% of total revenue potential. They have fundamentally different needs: predictability, accountability, professional presentation, and consequences for failure that go far beyond a refunded meal. David nodded enthusiastically, taking detailed notes as I presented each point. Maya's proposing something revolutionary. We pilot a dedicated corporate delivery service with guaranteed delivery windows, dedicated account management, and comprehensive backup systems. It's exactly what we've been desperately needing. With what resources? Jennifer challenged, her skepticism obvious in every word. We're a consulting firm, not a delivery company. We don't have drivers, vehicles, or logistics infrastructure. We don't need to build that infrastructure from scratch, I said, opening my laptop to reveal the comprehensive implementation plan I'd developed. We partner with carefully selected independent contractors who meet specific professional standards. I've already identified and interviewed 12 drivers in the Seattle area who have perfect ratings, professional presentation, and the reliability metrics necessary for business clients. I clicked to my next slide, revealing detailed driver profiles complete with performance statistics. We provide them with specialized training, branded uniforms, dedicated communication tools, and comprehensive support systems. Most importantly, we pay them 40% more than standard delivery rates in exchange for guaranteed performance standards. The financial projections I presented next made even Jennifer lean forward with interest. Conservative estimates show we could capture 15% of the corporate catering market in Seattle within 6 months. That represents approximately $2.3 million in annual revenue with profit margins of 35% after all operational costs. The room fell silent as the implications of those numbers sank in. Even Jennifer looked intrigued despite her obvious reluctance to admit that the former delivery girl might have identified a genuine business opportunity. David's boss, Patricia Hoffman, a stern woman known for her razor-sharp business instincts and zero tolerance for unrealistic projections, leaned forward with obvious interest. Those are impressive projections, Maya. What kind of initial investment are we looking at to get this operational? Initial startup costs would be approximately $50,000 for technology platform development, branding materials, driver training programs, and first-month operational expenses, I replied, clicking to my detailed budget breakdown. But here's the beautiful part, the model is infinitely scalable. Once we prove the concept works in Seattle and refine our systems, we can replicate this exact approach in any major metropolitan market in the country. I paused, letting that sink in before delivering my final point. We're not just talking about a local service improvement. We're talking about the foundation for a national company that could dominate an entirely underserved market segment. Patricia exchanged meaningful glances with David, and I could practically see the wheels turning in her experienced business mind. How confident are you in these projections? And more importantly, how committed are you to making this work? Confident enough to quit all my current delivery jobs and work exclusively on this venture, I said, my heart pounding but my voice steady with conviction. I believe in this business model so completely that I'm willing to bet my livelihood, my financial security, and my professional reputation on its success. The meeting ended with cautious optimism and a promise to review my comprehensive business plan with their executive team. As I packed up my materials, feeling like I'd just given the presentation of my lifetime, David approached me with an expression of genuine admiration. Maya, can I ask you something personal? This is probably the most thorough and well-researched business proposal I've seen in my 15 years in corporate consulting. Sure, ask away. What made you think so big? Most people in your position would be happy with a small consulting fee and would move on to the next opportunity. But you're proposing something that could transform an entire industry. Where does that kind of vision come from? I considered his question carefully, thinking back to that humiliating night that had started this entire journey. Remember the first time I delivered to this office? Jennifer called me just a delivery girl and dismissed my ideas about logistics before I'd even finished explaining them. David winced visibly. I heard about that incident afterward. It wasn't our finest moment as a company, and I apologize for how you were treated. It wasn't your fault, David, but it lit a fire in me that's been burning ever since. Every delivery I made after that night, I was collecting data, analyzing patterns, and building a case. Not just to prove them wrong, but to prove myself right. About what this industry could become. 3 days later, Patricia called me directly on my personal cell phone while I was between deliveries, parked outside a coffee shop in Capitol Hill. The sound of my phone ringing with an unknown number made my heart race. This could be the call that changed everything. Maya, this is Patricia Hoffman from Morrison & Associates. I've spent the weekend reviewing your proposal with our entire executive team, including our board of directors. My hands went sweaty as I gripped the phone. This was it, the moment that would determine whether my months of planning and preparation had been worth it. We're prepared to offer you something much bigger than a consulting contract, Patricia continued, her voice carrying an excitement I'd never heard before. Morrison & Associates wants to co-found a completely new company with you. We'll provide the initial capital investment and business development support. You'll provide the operational expertise, market insights, and serve as chief executive officer. CEO. The word hit me like a lightning bolt. Chief executive officer. Me. Maya Chen, the delivery girl who'd been laughed out of the same company's conference room just months ago. What kind of equity split are we discussing? I asked, trying to sound like I'd negotiated corporate partnership deals before, even though my hands were shaking with excitement. We're proposing a 60-40 split, Patricia explained. Morrison gets the majority stake for providing capital and initial business infrastructure, but you maintain complete operational control and get the executive title that reflects your vision and expertise. You'll have full authority over hiring, strategy, and day-to-day operations. It wasn't the 50-50 split I might have dreamed of, but it was real, substantial, and represented more opportunity than I'd ever imagined possible just 6 months ago. I accept, I said without hesitation. Excellent. We'll have our legal team draft the partnership agreements this week. Maya, I want you to know that in 25 years of business, I've rarely seen someone identify and articulate a market opportunity as clearly as you have. We're excited to build this with you. After I hung up, I sat in my parked scooter for 10 minutes, just staring at the Seattle skyline and trying to process what had just happened. I was about to become a CEO. I was about to co-found a company. The delivery girl was about to become a business owner. 6 weeks later, I stood in a small but professional office space in Pioneer Square. Watching a sign installer carefully attach our company logo to the front window, SwiftServe Corporate Solutions, delivering excellence every time. Below it, in smaller but incredibly meaningful text, Maya Chen, CEO and co-founder. My first hire was Marcus, the security guard from Morrison and Associates who'd been one of the few people to treat me with respect and see my potential from the beginning. It turned out he had extensive customer service experience, a degree in communications, and was desperately looking for a career change that would utilize his people skills. Never thought I'd be working for the delivery girl, he joked on his first day, settling into his new office as our director of client relations. Former delivery girl, I corrected with a grin that felt like it might split my face in half. Now I'm the CEO who used to deliver food, and there's a big difference. Plus, now I'm the one signing your paychecks. Our first client was, ironically and satisfyingly, Morrison and Associates themselves. David had arranged for us to handle all their corporate catering needs, which gave us immediate credibility, steady revenue, and the perfect case study to present to other potential clients. But the real test of our business model came when we landed Seattle's biggest and most demanding law firm as a client. Sterling, Blackwood and Associates was known throughout the city for their impossible standards, zero tolerance for mistakes, and reputation for destroying service providers who failed to meet their exacting requirements. Their managing partner, Robert Sterling, was a legendary figure in Seattle's legal community, notorious for his perfectionism and infamous for his ability to end careers with a single negative review. When he agreed to meet with us, I knew this was either going to establish our reputation or destroy it before we'd really gotten started. Ms. Chen, he said during our initial meeting in his intimidating corner office overlooking Elliott Bay, I'd built my career and this firm's reputation on absolute reliability and uncompromising standards. If your service fails even once, if a single delivery is late, incomplete, or unprofessional, we're done. No second chances, no explanations, no forgiveness. Understood? The pressure in that moment was intense, but I met his gaze steadily. Understood completely, Mr. Sterling. But let me ask you this, what if I told you that in our first 6 months of operation, we've never missed a delivery window, never had a customer complaint, and never failed to exceed our clients' expectations? He raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. I'd say that's either remarkable performance or you haven't had enough challenging orders to really test your systems. Why don't we start with your most challenging regular order and see exactly how we perform? I replied, feeling more confident than I had any right to be. That challenge became the foundation of our entire reputation in Seattle's competitive corporate market. Sterling's firm ordered elaborate lunch spreads for 30-person partner meetings every Wednesday at exactly 12:30 p.m. The food had to arrive between 12:25 and 12:30, not earlier, not later, no exceptions. The previous delivery services had failed consistently, with one vendor actually being fired mid-meeting when their food arrived 40 minutes late during a client presentation. We nailed it every single week for 3 months straight, then 6 months, then a full year. Our precision became legendary in Seattle's legal community. Word spread through Seattle's tight-knit corporate community like wildfire. By month 8, we had 23 high-profile corporate clients and monthly revenue approaching $100,000. I was working 18-hour days, but every moment felt like progress towards something bigger. Something that could change not just my life but the entire industry. Our client roster read like a who's who of Seattle business: tech startups that needed reliable catering for investor meetings, law firms with demanding partners, consulting companies with last-minute client dinners, and medical practices that required precise timing for staff meetings. Each client presented unique challenges that pushed our systems to evolve and improve. The transformation in my daily life was surreal. 6 months earlier, I'd been scraping together rent money and eating ramen noodles for dinner. Now I was wearing tailored business suits, attending networking events, and having lunch meetings with some of the most influential business leaders in the Pacific Northwest. But the real validation came from an unexpected source. Late one evening, I was in our Pioneer Square office reviewing expansion plans and financial projections when my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize, but the area code was San Francisco. SwiftServe, this is Maya. Maya Chen? The voice was professional but excited, with the kind of energy that immediately made me sit up straighter. This is Amanda Rodriguez from TechCrunch. I'm working on a feature story about innovative logistics startups that are disrupting traditional industries, and your company keeps coming up in my research. My heart started racing like I'd just sprinted up a mountain. TechCrunch was the holy grail of startup publicity, the kind of media coverage that could transform a small regional company into a national phenomenon overnight. I'd love to schedule an in-depth interview about your journey, Amanda continued, with growing enthusiasm. Your story, from delivery driver to CEO in less than a year, is exactly the kind of entrepreneurial transformation that our readers are passionate about. Plus, your business model is genuinely innovative in a way that could inspire other entrepreneurs. After I hung up, I sat in my quiet office for a long moment, looking out at the Seattle skyline through our floor-to-ceiling windows. The same corporate buildings where I used to deliver food now housed our clients. The towers that once seemed so intimidating and unreachable were now part of my daily business landscape, filled with people who respected my expertise and paid premium prices for my company's services. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah, my former roommate who was now our director of marketing. Just saw the TechCrunch article preview on LinkedIn and nearly fell off my chair. So incredibly proud of you. You're about to be famous. I opened LinkedIn and found the preview post that was already generating hundreds of comments and shares. From delivery girl to CEO, how Maya Chen built a $1.2 million logistics empire in less than a year. Exclusive interview coming soon. $1.2 million in annual revenue. The number still felt surreal, like it belonged to someone else's life. But the spreadsheets on my desk told the truth. We were on track to hit $1.5 million by year's end, with profit margins that made even our skeptical accountant smile. But more than the financial success, what filled me with the deepest sense of pride and accomplishment was the team we'd built together. 8 full-time employees, all earning competitive salaries with comprehensive benefits, all part of something we were creating from scratch. Marcus had recruited 2 additional client relations specialists. Sarah had built our marketing department from nothing into a sophisticated operation that generated leads faster than we could handle them. Most importantly, we were proving that a company could be both profitable and principled. Every driver we contracted earned significantly more than industry standard. Every employee had equity stakes in our growing success. We weren't just building a business, we were building a better way of doing business. I opened my laptop and started typing an email to Jennifer Walsh at Morrison & Associates. After a year of phenomenal growth and success, it was time to present our national expansion plan to the people who'd initially dismissed me. The subject line read, "The Delivery Girl's Next Big Idea, National Expansion Proposal." 18 months after that humiliating night at Morrison & Associates, I was standing in the opulent lobby of the Four Seasons Hotel in downtown Seattle, wearing a tailored navy suit that cost more than I used to make in a month. Waiting for the elevator to take me to the penthouse conference room where my future would be decided. Today was the day we'd either secure the funding to transform SwiftServe from a successful regional company into a national logistics empire, or learn that our dreams were bigger than the market was ready to support. The stakes couldn't have been higher, and the pressure was intense enough to make my hands shake despite months of preparation. Maya Chen? A tall man in an obviously expensive suit approached me with the confident stride of someone accustomed to making million-dollar decisions before breakfast. I'm Michael Chen, no relation, I assume, from Pinnacle Ventures. Ready for what? Might be the most important presentation of your entrepreneurial career? Absolutely, I replied, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. I've been preparing for this moment for over a year. The elevator ride to the 34th floor felt like an eternity compressed into minutes. Through the glass walls, Seattle spread out below us like a circuit board of lights and infinite possibility. I could see the Morrison & Associates building in the distance, where this entire journey had started with humiliation and dismissal. The irony was almost too perfect. I was about to potentially secure more funding in one afternoon than that entire company generated in quarterly revenue. The conference room was intimidating in its understated elegance. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of Puget Sound, a conference table that could comfortably seat 20 people, and 5 venture capitalists who collectively controlled more investment capital than I'd ever imagined existed. Each of them had built billion-dollar companies, funded unicorn startups, and possessed the ability to transform entrepreneurial dreams into global realities with a single decision. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael began with the practiced smoothness of someone who orchestrated these meetings daily. Meet Maya Chen, CEO and co-founder of SwiftServe Corporate Solutions. Maya, you have exactly 30 minutes to convince 5 of the most successful investors in the Pacific Northwest why your logistics company deserves a $12 million Series A investment. $12 million. The number had felt abstract when we'd first discussed it with our financial advisors, but sitting in this room, facing these experienced investors who'd seen thousands of pitches, it felt impossibly real and impossibly large. This wasn't just about money, it was about validation on a scale that could transform everything. I opened my presentation with a photo that had become symbolic of my entire journey, my old red delivery scooter parked outside Morrison and Associates on that rainy night 18 months ago. 2 years ago, I was delivering pad thai to corporate executives who saw me as completely invisible, just another faceless service worker in the gig economy. I began, my voice growing stronger with each word. Today, I'm here to show you how. That experience of being dismissed and underestimated gave me unique insights into a $47 billion market that everyone else is systematically overlooking. I clicked to my next slide, SwiftServe's explosive growth trajectory displayed in vivid charts and graphs. Revenue had skyrocketed from a modest $8,000 in our first month to an impressive $850,000 last month. We now operated seamlessly in 4 major cities with 127 contracted drivers and 89 corporate clients ranging from tech startups to Fortune 500 companies. The corporate delivery market isn't just underserved, it's fundamentally misunderstood by every major player. I continued, clicking through slides that showed our competitive analysis. Traditional delivery apps optimize for speed and cost reduction across millions of individual orders. But business clients need reliability, professional communication, accountability, and consequences for failure that go far beyond a refunded meal. They'll pay premium prices for premium service. But nobody was offering it until SwiftServe. One of the investors, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Blackwood who'd built 3 successful logistics companies, leaned forward with obvious interest. Your profit margins are impressive, Maya, but how do you scale this highly personalized model without losing the premium touch that makes it work? Scaling usually means standardization, which could destroy your competitive advantage. This was the question I'd been preparing for since we'd first started discussing expansion. The answer is technology combined with systematic training and cultural consistency, I replied, clicking to reveal our proprietary platform architecture. We've developed a comprehensive technology platform that handles everything from advanced route optimization to client communication, but with human oversight at every critical decision point. Our drivers go through an intensive 2-week certification program that covers not just delivery logistics, but professional communication, problem solving, and customer relationship management. I clicked to the next slide, showing our organizational structure. Most importantly, we maintain a 3-to-1 driver-to-coordinator ratio in every market, ensuring that every delivery has dedicated human oversight and support. We're not trying to eliminate the human element, we're trying to systematize and scale it. Michael nodded approvingly, his investment instincts clearly engaged. Tell us about competitive threats. What happens when DoorDash or Uber Eats decides to target your market segment? They have massive resources and could potentially undercut your pricing. They already tried, I replied with a slight smile, clicking to my next slide. 3 months ago, Uber launched Uber for Business in Seattle with significant marketing spend. They attempted to compete directly on price, offering corporate delivery services at half our rates. The room fell silent, and I could see the concern in several faces. This could either be the end of my presentation or the beginning of our biggest competitive advantage story. They lasted 6 weeks, I continued with a slight smile. Turns out, when you cut prices by 50%, you also cut quality by 50%. Their service failed so spectacularly that 2 of their clients switched to us and specifically mentioned the Uber disaster in their onboarding calls. Patricia laughed. So the competition actually helped you? Exactly. It proved that our market exists and that premium pricing is justified. We're not just delivering food, we're delivering reliability and reputation. When a law firm's client meeting depends on lunch arriving on time, they don't want the cheapest option. They want the option that works. The questions continued. For another 20 minutes. Financial projections, scalability models, team structure, competitive positioning. Each answer felt like a small victory, building confidence for the next challenge. Finally, Michael asked the big question, Maya, what makes you the right person to lead this company to national scale? You've done an impressive job locally, but going national requires different skills. I'd been dreading this question because I knew it was really asking, are you sure a former delivery driver can handle a multi-million-dollar company? 2 years ago, I was delivering food and getting laughed at for suggesting business improvements. But that experience taught me something no MBA program could. I understand this industry from the ground up. I know what goes wrong in deliveries. Because I lived through those failures. I know what clients need because I dealt with their frustrations firsthand. I paused, looking around the room at 5 of the most successful investors in the Pacific Northwest. But more than that, I built a company culture around the idea that everyone deserves respect and opportunity. Half of our management team started as drivers. Our head of operations was a security guard 18 months ago. We don't just deliver food, we deliver careers and hope. The room was quiet for a long moment. Then Patricia smiled. That's the best answer I've heard to that question in 5 years of investing. After the presentation, I waited in the hotel lobby while the investors deliberated. My phone buzzed constantly, messages from my team, my parents, Sarah, even Marcus sending encouraging texts. One message stood out. It was from David Park at Morrison & Associates, heard through the grapevine about your big presentation today. Rooting for you. P.S. Jennifer says hi and that she's proud of what you've built. Jennifer Walsh, who had dismissed me as just a delivery girl, was now proud of my success. The irony was delicious. An hour later, Michael Chen returned to the lobby with a smile that told me everything I needed to know. Maya, congratulations. Pinnacle Ventures and our co-investors are prepared to offer SwiftServe $12 million in series of funding at a pre-money valuation of $38 million. The math hit me like a freight train. My 40% stake in a company valued at $50 million meant I was worth $20 million on paper. $20 million. There's one condition, Michael continued. We want you to remain as CEO through the national expansion. This is your vision, and we want you to see it through. I tried to respond professionally, but all I could manage was, thank you. Thank you so much. 6 months later, I was back in the Morrison & Associates building. But this time I was there for a very different kind of meeting. SwiftServe had just signed a national partnership agreement to handle corporate deliveries for Morrison's offices in 12 cities. The same conference room where I'd been humiliated now hosted a celebration dinner for our partnership. Jennifer Walsh, now a senior VP, stood up to make a toast. I want to say something, she began, her voice sincere. 2 years ago, a young woman delivered food to this room and shared some ideas about logistics. I'm embarrassed to admit that I dismissed her suggestions and treated her poorly. The room was silent except for the soft clink of wine glasses being set down. That young woman was Maya Chen, and she's now the CEO of the company that's revolutionizing corporate logistics across the country. Maya, I owe you an apology. More than that, I owe you a thank you. You've taught me to never underestimate someone based on their job title or current circumstances. Jennifer raised her glass to Maya Chen, who proved that your beginning doesn't determine your ending. The applause was warm and genuine. As everyone toasted, I caught sight of Marcus across the room, now our director of client relations, grinning with pride. Later that evening, I stood on the rooftop of our new Seattle headquarters, looking out at the city lights. My phone showed a text from my accountant, confirmed, SwiftServe's Q3 revenue hit $2.8 million. Your personal net worth officially crossed $25 million today. $25 million. From delivering other people's food to building my own empire, but the number that meant more to me was 247, the number of people now employed by SwiftServe across the country. Former delivery drivers, security guards, and restaurant workers who now had careers with health insurance, retirement plans, and equity stakes in our success. My phone rang. It was Sarah, my former roommate who now worked as our director of marketing. Maya, did you see the Forbes article? What Forbes article? 30 Under 30, the delivery driver who built a logistics empire. You made the cover. I laughed, remembering the night 2 years ago when I'd sat in our tiny Fremont apartment, crafting my first business proposal at 3 a.m. You know what the best part is? I told Sarah. What? Tomorrow morning, some kid is going to wake up in Seattle, put on a delivery uniform, and start their shift thinking they're just delivering food. But maybe, just maybe, they're actually delivering their future. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in over a year. I put on my old delivery uniform, climbed onto my original red scooter, and made one final delivery to the Morrison and Associates building. Marcus was at his security desk when I walked in, and his face lit up with confused recognition. Maya? What are you doing here dressed like, well, like the old you? I smiled and held up a small insulated bag. Special delivery for Jennifer Walsh. From the CEO of SwiftServe. Inside the bag was a handwritten note and a small gift, a replica of my old delivery scooter with a plaque that read, "Thank you for the motivation. Maya Chen, CEO." The note was simple. Dear Jennifer, thank you for calling me just a delivery girl. It was exactly what I needed to hear. Best wishes, the delivery girl who became a millionaire. As I rode my scooter out of the parking garage. For the last time, I passed a young man on a delivery bike, probably starting his first week on the job. He looked tired and determined, carrying someone else's dinner toward his own dreams. I wanted to stop and tell him that his beginning doesn't determine his ending. That every delivery is a chance to learn something new. That the people who underestimate you today might be celebrating your success tomorrow. Instead, I just smiled and rode toward my next destination, the future I delivered to myself. 1 mile at a time, the delivery girl had become a millionaire, but more importantly, she'd become proof that in America, your dreams are only as limited as your determination to achieve them. And somewhere in Seattle, another young person was probably putting on a delivery uniform for the first time, not knowing that they might be wearing the costume of their own transformation.